August and then take them off in the spring, you can get some good results with that. So mites are the biggest number one problem. The other problem are going to be beetles. That's why you want to put your colonies in the full sun, because beetles don't like it. But beetle blasters are $5. They're a plastic little thing. And you can just put vegetable oil in there, or you put a little Swiffer pad up at the upper thing. So it's beetles and mites. And if you've ever had, and we have, the mites and the beetles, particularly the beetles, will slime your honey, and it's really awful. It's nasty. Okay, so how much honey am I going to get? Well, like, where's the payoff here, right? Year one, you might get one frame, and that taste that I talked about, that I'm still chasing that high. Okay, year two, you might get 10 quarts, 12 quarts. There's about 3 pounds to a quart, so you can do the math there. You might get that year two and a little bit of wax. My husband makes fun of me because I'm forever buying equipment. But I said, well, Darlene, how do I explain this to them? Like, where's the money in this, right? So I said, well, I'm going to come up with this. It's the 10-10-10 rule. So you put $10,000 in, and 10 years later, you can earn $10,000 a year. Okay? Now, I got a day gig that keeps me pretty busy, but it's not a bad side hustle if you can keep them healthy. Now, we don't have that many hives, but it is definitely worth it. We, in the past, have typically overwintered about 12 to 15 colonies, and we do quite well with that. But I ain't got time to sit at a farmer's market and get the premium rate, and we are currently not in an area with sourwood. That's the more premium rate that you can get. So, that's why we're not selling nukes this year, because we're gonna be moving to an area where we'll be really expanding the business. So yes, it's worth it. And typically, if you're your typical backyard beekeeper with 5 hives or so, you will sell out of honey before the end of the fall. And you'll need extraction equipment. That's a whole nother conversation. Usually if you make friends with somebody, they might let you borrow their extractor. Some clubs have an extractor you can borrow, so there's that. So year two, I know you mentioned about swarms and splits. So that's year one in a nutshell. Again, it would take me 2 days of training of a class to tell you more about how to be a successful beekeeper. Year two is all about swarm prevention and splits. So, our 2 hives, when we were successful, because when we restarted up with nukes, we were successful because they were healthy. Then, year 2, you're splitting them. So 2 becomes 4 or 6. 6 becomes 18. We typically get our results with healthy hives and knowing how to manage them with some experience. For each overwintered hive, we will get 2 additional new colonies the next year and about 67 pounds of honey. So at $10 a pound and $200 a nuke, you do the math. That's kind of what the going rate is around here. So, it's worth it to us, even though I've got a really good day job. It's worth it for us to do our little side hustle.
Do you sell at a store? Do you sell online? What's your marketing strategy here?
Currently, we're staying underneath the Tennessee cottage laws. So if you keep it under, I'm not real well versed, but you keep it under like $2,000, and if you're directly selling from my hands to you, not in a store, you don't need any special licenses, you don't need any permits, nothing like that. It's under the cottage laws. You go over $2,000 in sales, then you need to start getting a business license in most areas. And if you sell over, I forget what it is, we've not reached that volume yet. There's a pound limit, and it's something like, say, I don't know, it seems like it's more than 10 5-gallon buckets of honey a year. Then you're no longer underneath the cottage rules. Then you've got to get a commercial kitchen for extraction, which is what we're going to do.
You're selling to your family and friends?
Mm-hmm. Word of mouth.
Word of mouth. There we
and
go.
you got 5 hives in your backyard, you will get sold out. That will not be a problem, trust me. Yeah, that it goes fast in word of mouth. One person tells another person, and I don't have to market it. Our strategy, we're moving. We've got to build a commercial kitchen, which I'm going to do. We have a market out of state. I need a commercial kitchen to be able to sell across state lines, and we have a market out of state that we're going to be vending to. But I got the market before we expanded.
I was wondering if I'm just having the bees as pollinators, do I have to collect the honey, or can it just?
It can just sit there. It can just sit there, but you don't want them to get what's called honey bound. And ours will do that. So if you just get the 2 boxes, they will get honey bound and then they'll swarm. So either take part of the honey, because remember how I said our hives will make 67 pounds of honey? That's more than what they need to overwinter. And so we had that happen to us, our big production hives. We didn't take enough honey out of the 2 brood chambers, and they weren't able to make enough winter bees. That's a whole nother story. And they died because they didn't have a sufficient population to overwinter, to keep their heat. So you gotta take some, if you're successful at keeping them alive, you gotta take some honey. You have to. And you can crush and strain. You just take out a frame and literally put it in your hands and you squish it, and then you put foundation back in the frame and put it back in the hive. So you can do that.
In my particular case, I have different things going on my property, and I'm interested about the bees. Part of it is gardening, part of it's orchard, and part of it is actually crops, like corn. A beekeeper shared with me that corn can be a bad thing for bees, or possibly, or,
Are you spraying it? That's
Corn?
bad for bees. Yeah, right.
I'm
They don't necessarily collect the pollen on it. We've not seen them do it. As a matter of fact, we've been attacked and we hid in our cornfield, our little corn thing. So they don't necessarily bother it all that bad. We've not had any trouble with that, but then we're not next to agriculture either, where we're currently at. Pollinators, absolutely. We have a 40-foot pear tree, and you want to talk about pollination, and they don't even like pears all that much. They prefer other fruits. They will pollinate the pears, but it's absolutely insane what your I mean, our neighbors, I don't think they realize we've got bees, but those people who have fruit trees are absolutely laden, like the breaking trees laden.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why we did it, because, we garden, and it's wonderful. Yeah. Do not put, our mistakes, we put our apiary about 30, 40 feet from our garden. That's too close. Most of the time we're fine, but if you work them, like we did the splits, and then the next day I went to go plant my plants, I needed to wear a full suit because there were 3 guard bees that were not happy, and they wanted us out of that garden because they remembered that we were fussing with them the day before. So my last thing I'm going to say, if you ask the joke is always, if you ask 10 beekeepers the same question, you're going to get 12 different answers. For real. My husband and I, different all the time, and we pretty much came up together. You need to find what works for you. Like I said, for us, we're in open sun. We don't have trouble with beetles. Where I've heard where we're moving to, they have trouble with beetles, so I'm going to have to up my beetle game. We have that humidity that goes up with the western prevailing winds. UT, their apiary there off Alcoa Highway, they did a study where they put a wooden frame, a wooden fence up behind the hives in the prevailing wind, and they got increased honey production. Strong, if you've got a strong wind, I highly recommend. We went down to Lowe's and got some broken fence. Who cares? It's, and you just put one of those, what are they, 6 feet? pieces of fence on a couple of T-posts, wire it up. We leave that year round. It helps in the winter so they don't have to fight so much to keep warm in the winter, and in the summertime, they got no problems doing their orientation. It doesn't take them extra energy to get going and off to where they need to go. So strongly recommend, if you got wind, putting up a fence. Find what works for you.
Question on the beetles, up in our area up the creek, they've got a lot of Japanese beetles.
No
Is that
problem.
an issue with the bees?
No. No. Chickens will eat them in the winter, just saying, if you get those traps, put them in the freezer. Fridge your Japanese beetles, feed them back to the chickens, they love them in the winter. Free food, free chicken food.
What about these circadias that are coming?
I don't
Is that gonna freak everybody out?
I don't think it's gonna bother the bees.
Okay.
Martins, birds, don't put up a martin house. Birds will eat the queen when she's out at her mating flight because she moves a little slower. So, if you're really big into birds and you're encouraging the swallows and the bigger martins, that's not healthy in the spring for your queens. What works for us is oxalic acid because, I don't like strong chemicals. But what works well for us is oxalic acid. But that means a commitment in July, for 3 weeks in a row, and that's tough. And we've got the big, please use the full respirators, not just the N95s. So there's a whole lot of thing. At the bottom here, I have some resources. I know I'm here because Stephen couldn't make it. He's a wonderful guy. Please support him if you need anything. On Facebook, the closest club that I'm aware of, I think there's some in North Carolina. I don't know how far they are, but the closest one here is Appalachia Bee Club. That's the one I currently belong to. They're wonderful people. If you're closer to Irwin on the other side, there's one, I didn't put it down here in Greenville, Davy Crockett. That's the one I'm going to be joining. They meet the fourth Monday, but ABC meets the fourth Tuesday of the month, the Farm Bureau in Jonesboro. On Facebook, there's also the Beekeeping Mentors of East Tennessee. There is no such thing as a stupid question. I'm 10 years in, I still got stupid questions. So there are no such things as stupid questions. What do you do with a 10 virgin swarm? You make mating nukes. But what do you do? I thought we had lost our minds. I mean, we're old people, our eyesight isn't so good, and we're like, okay, we got the swarm. And then there's another queen in there. Okay, we'll get a queen clip, put her in there, move her someplace else. There's not a queen in there. Second queen clip, put her in there. There's not a queen. So if you friend me on Facebook, take a look, and I put that up there. If not, I'm fairly confident. So if you want to read how to reach me, I'm happy to help or connect you with some mentors. Our email address, I've not been using it, but I did fire it up for this. You can see it on there. On Instagram, I do post a lot of stuff on Instagram, more pictures than anything else. That's Be Blessed Farm. That's singular, not the S. You'll see all the pictures there. And you'll see a picture of myself and my husband, and you see my name there on Facebook. Feel free to friend me there, instant message me there on Facebook. I work full time, but I might not be quite as responsive to you, but I'm happy to help and try to connect you. But again, I'm grateful for you guys to come together as a group. I know that I don't live here, so I'm really not part of your community, but I'm grateful that you guys are putting together as a community because each of you brings something unique to the group, and I think we all need that, and we increasingly will need that in the future. So, any other questions?
I do have one more question. I hear a lot, or I am part of a couple of Facebook pages, and they say, oh, it's expensive, But is it really expensive after the initial setup?
So and again, no disrespect to anybody who wants to be a natural beekeeper. We failed, okay? So if you, as a beginner beekeeper, meaning you're inexperienced, if you're willing to follow somebody's direction for a mite treatment strategy and feed the first year, your return on investment is probably for your initial investment on year three. You'll get your money back. we've got probably 10,000, that's why I was talking to my husband, we've got probably $10,000 worth of equipment all together, but I've got more money than time. But it's not difficult for us to make 5,000 a year without trying hard. So yes, now we run 12 to 15, it takes a lot of time. It's hot work, if you're willing to put in the work. But your $500 one, probably year 3, you'll get your, you can sell some honey back and get that back. And sell a couple nukes, at least one nuke year 3, if you just want to keep with the one. I would keep 2, I really would. Because then you can take from one to the other. Like our swarms, our virgin swarms, I had the extra hives to grab a frame of brood so that they can, with nurse bees, that's a long story, to put that virgin in there with those bees, and we could get her mated, and then, you take resources from one and give to the other. That's down the road. That's why I say year 3. If you're willing to do the hard work and accept feedback from an experienced mentor. We didn't. I don't want you to waste 3 years, and that's heartbreaking. It's frustrating because we're out there in the heat and you got nothing to show for it.
That's one thing. Bee suits are hot.
Yes.
The full ones. Yeah,
Yeah.
you don't want to be. It's not pleasurable being out there in 80 degree with the full suit.
Should be
And-
sustained though.
And he's got the one that breathes really well too.
Yeah. So you try this. It's like, I have the thin one, which I prefer, and I like the round one. I don't like the fencing one. If you're a guy and you like to wear your hat backwards, if you're a hat backwards kind of guy, the fencing one guys usually prefer. I like the fencing one that has the round one. I have a ventilated suit. I got it bigger so that I could wear it in the fall and put a sweatshirt under it. No, then you've just lost, so we've invested in a lot of stuff that didn't work for us, so. But we have friends over like, hey, you want to come in the beach? Sure, throw on a suit, here you go, have fun, come on, let's go.
And you might start out with thinking you'll have one, but that one will quickly lead to more.
And ladies, if you are a size small, order a size medium. Please do not get a suit that's a little bit bigger, because you don't need to pull any tightness, and the bees, will go to wherever it's tight. They will get you. My husband is a small guy, but he's got a really thin suit. He loves it so much. I'm like, dude, you've got to get a new suit. We can afford it. Let's get one. He's like, no, I like this one. And they got him on the stomach through the t-shirt. So. Yeah, I'll talk about bees all day. I love them. They're great. I could tell you all about the wonderful things about bees that you can learn from watching bees. It's the collective hive mentality, and it's not the queen who decides to swarm, it's the collective group of the bees, and how you get along with others, and anyway, I wax philosophical.
I'm always paranoid about getting stung by a bee, and I'm not allergic or anything, but I keep pennies around, and they have to be pre-1976 to be pure copper. And if you do get stung, stick a penny on it, and it takes the sting out of it.
So I can't recommend this officially, but let's just say when I get stung, I go and get some plantain, and I chew it up and I slap it on there. You need something.
Something else that'll take care of it is ammonia. Doesn't matter if it's sudsy ammonia or smelling salts ammonia, it immediately takes the sting out.
And the first thing you want to do is go to a safe place and take your hive tool and scrape the stinger off. Because what that stinger is the barb, but it's also the gland, and it will continue to pump. And that's why I think I've still got this itching a couple weeks later, is I had to run 100 feet up a hill into our shop before I was comfortable taking my clothes off to get that stinger out. So it pumped all that venom into my hand. And then I was swollen from here to here. And so all I could do was move my fingers for a few days on the keyboard.
Now, if you do get into beekeeping, when it gets really hot, it's not uncommon to see, they call it bearding.
Yeah.
The bees will come out and basically outside the hive and just
It looks like
start.
a
It
beard.
looks like a beard of bees.
Yeah.
And you might think, oh, they're getting ready to swarm. It's just they're cooling off.
Yeah, and so I didn't mention that, it's on here. So by month, I put a few things on there, what to do when. Right now, we're in the nectar flow from, mid-April to about mid-May. You guys might be a little bit shifted further into the summer. Sourwood is the last, and I always say, for me, the super flow is on when you see like the tulip poplars are a big one, the black locust, so it's mostly your tree things. In the dearth, typically what you'll start to see when the dearth, meaning there's a dearth of nectar flow, and you'll look on the white clover on the ground, and they will be working the clover, and that signals we're near the end of the flow. And at that point, so they're all sweet and loving, and you've been in your hive every week, just like Cheryl said, and you're like, hey, this is good, I got this, and then you're gonna hit June, and their attitude has changed. And they will tell you if you listen to them. That's why you just need to spend time with them. They're like, it means they're not really happy with you. They'll go, that's just me going. They're saying, hey, I'm getting a little frustrated with you. You need to wrap it up. And then there'll be this, they're like, okay, it's time to go now. And then when there's a whole bunch, okay, you waited too late. There's a whole art to lighting a smoker. We typically just use the long pine needles. As a new beekeeper, invest in some smoker fuel or some cotton, something natural. There's a whole art to that. I'm not good at it, so I'm not going to teach at that, but have a smoker available, or at least a squirt bottle with some 2 to 1 water to sugar water, so that you can at least spray them and they'd be a little happier. But the dearth, they will have a whole lot of attitude. That's why before we go into a hive, know why you're going in there and what your purpose is. So for you as a new beekeeper, you got your bees, week 1, you're gonna go in there. What are you going to do? I'm going to look to see, I always call it a wellness check, but you're going in there to learn how to do a wellness check. So what are you gonna look for? You're gonna look for, I wanna go and look for eggs, and I wanna go see, if there's open larvae a week later. So know your purpose of what you're going in there. This time of year, we put a lot of foundation in, we're not feeding, right? Because again, I'm trying to be as natural as possible. So I'm gonna go in, the next time I'm going in next week, I wanna see them, are they drawing out the frames? Do they need a super on? I mean, there's specific things that, my husband I have a little group. What's our purpose? What are we gonna do in here? And keep notes. What works well for us, and they don't like it, is a permanent magic marker on a piece of cardboard. They do not like that smell of the magic marker, but it works for us.
You mentioned the pine cones for the smoker?
Pine needles.
Pine needles for
Yes,
the,
the
okay.
long needles.
Okay, and that's what you put in the smoker
Yeah.
too, okay.
Yeah, we'll take and twist up to a ball, a firm ball, put that on the bottom, light that, and then put more pine needles on top. But the bottom part is lit. So I didn't put the price of a smoker on there, but it's all the equipment. It's, like I said, it's a lot of money, so I want you guys to be successful. I don't want you to be heartbroken. You feel like you're a failure at keeping your livestock healthy. So you just gotta be willing to do the stuff, and then later on. I mean, the mites thing, right? The whole holy grail of being treatment-free is so that the mites, so that your bees will progress to develop a stronger strain of bees so that we don't need to keep treating them. And that holy grail, people have been chasing that for 15 years and we're not there yet. We're just not there. So you gotta treat them. If you're a new beekeeper, just treat them. And as you get more experience, if you want to transition, that's fine.
Do you